first night working at a hospital in Texas, the night nurse told me something strange. She said, "If you hear anything from room 417, just ignore it." At the time, it sounded like a joke. It wasn't. If you're watching this alone, you might want to turn the lights on. This happened in early 2024 when I started working as a night security assistant at a small hospital just outside Dallas, Texas. It wasn't a big place. Just 2 floors, a few dozen rooms, and a small emergency wing. At night, it felt almost empty. Most of the staff stayed near the nurse station, and the far end of the hallway was usually quiet. Too quiet. My shift started at 11 p.m. The nurse on duty that night was named Laura. She'd clearly been working there for years, calm, tired, and the kind of person who didn't waste words. While showing me around, she pointed down one of the darker hallways and said, "Rooms 410 through 420 are mostly unused. If you hear anything from there, just ignore it." I asked why. She didn't answer right away. Then she just said, "Trust me." That should have been enough, but it wasn't. The first couple of hours were completely normal. I checked doors, walked the halls, and everything felt routine. Machines beeped in the distance. Nurses moved quietly between rooms, and the building had that constant low hum hospitals always have. Around 2:08 a.m., I was sitting near the front desk when I heard something. A faint sound, like metal tapping, coming from down the hallway Laura had pointed at earlier. I tried to ignore it. Told myself it was just pipes or something shifting in the building, but then it happened again. This time louder, more deliberate, like someone knocking. I stood up and looked down the hallway. The lights at that end were dimmer than the rest of the floor, almost like they didn't fully turn on. Everything looked empty. Still. Then I heard it again. 3 knocks. Slow, evenly spaced, from one of the rooms. Room 417. I don't know why, but I started walking toward it, slowly, like I already knew I shouldn't be going there. As I got closer, the temperature dropped. Not dramatically, but enough to notice, enough to feel wrong. I stopped outside the door. Room 417. The door was closed. The light above it was off. Then, another knock. From inside, I felt my chest tighten, because according to the system, that room was empty. I should have walked away. I know that now. But instead, I knocked back. Silence. Then slowly, very slowly, I heard something move inside, like a bed shifting. I stepped back, and that's when the handle moved. Just slightly. The door opened. Only a few inches. Darkness inside. I couldn't see anything. No person. No movement. Just black. And then, a voice. "Weak. Try. Help me." I froze. It sounded real. Too real. "Who's in there?" I asked. No response. Just breathing. Slow. Uneven. I pushed the door open a little more. The room looked empty. Bed, monitor, chair, everything in place. But the monitor was on. Flatline. No patient. No movement. Nothing. Then behind me, I heard Laura's voice. "Close the door." I turned around instantly. She was standing at the end of the hallway, not moving, just watching me. "Close it," she said again, this time more serious. I didn't argue. I shut the door immediately. The moment it closed, the knocking stopped, completely. Laura walked up to me slowly. "You went in, didn't you?" I nodded. She sighed, then said something that made everything worse. "That room hasn't had a patient in years." I felt my stomach drop. She continued. "People hear things sometimes, knocking, voices." She looked directly at me, and it always starts the same way. I didn't ask what she meant, because deep down, I already knew. That night, I didn't go near that hallway again, but at exactly 3:17 a.m., I heard it again, this time from right behind me. 3 knocks. Close, too close, and a voice. right next to my ear. You left me inside. I quit the next morning. Didn't go back. Didn't ask questions. But sometimes, late at night, when everything's quiet, I still hear it. 3 knocks. Slow. Waiting. At exactly 3:06 a.m., the hospital phone rang. The caller ID showed room 218. The problem was, that room had been empty for 3 days. If you're watching this alone, you might want to turn the lights on. This happened in early 2024, when I was working night shift. Reception at a small hospital just outside Denver, Colorado. It wasn't a big place. Just 2 floors, a quiet ICU wing, and long hallways that always felt colder at night. After midnight, things slowed down a lot. Most patients were asleep, and the only sounds you'd hear were distant monitors and the occasional footsteps from nurses doing rounds. My job was simple. Answer calls, log activity, direct staff if needed, that's it. On my 3rd week, I started noticing something strange about room 218. During shift handover, the nurse mentioned it had been cleared earlier that week. Patient discharged, room cleaned, no one assigned. So it should have stayed empty. But that night, something felt off. Around 2:40 a.m., I was sitting at the desk when I heard a faint sound coming from down the hallway. Not loud, not clear. Just movement. I looked up. The hallway lights were dim like always. Everything looked normal. Then it stopped. Complete silence. I went back to what I was doing, tried to ignore it. At exactly 3:06 a.m., the phone rang. Sharp, sudden. I picked it up. Front desk, this is Ryan. No response. Just static. Then, a voice. Weak, dry. Hello? I sat up straight. Yeah, who is this? A pause. Then, room so... My grip tightened on the phone. Because that room was empty. Who's in there, I asked. No answer. Just breathing. Slow, uneven. Then the line went dead. I stared at the receiver for a few seconds, before slowly putting it down. And without thinking, I looked at the hallway. Room 218 was at the far end. The light outside it was flickering. That wasn't normal. I grabbed the radio. Anyone near 218? No response. Just static. I should have stayed at the desk. I know that now. But I didn't. I got up and walked down the hallway. Slowly. Each step echoing louder than it should. The closer I got, the colder it felt. Room 218. The door was closed, but the light above it kept flickering. On, off, on, off. I stood there for a moment. Then I heard it. From inside. A sound. Like something moving across the bed. Slow, dragging. My hand moved toward the handle and stopped. Because at that exact moment, my phone rang again. Loud, right behind me. I turned instantly. The desk phone was ringing, but I was still holding the receiver. I slowly looked down at my hand. The phone I had answered earlier was still off the hook, but it was ringing. That didn't make sense. I walked back slowly, picked up the second line. Hello? And that's when I heard it. My voice. Coming through the phone. Don't open it. I froze. Because I hadn't said that. And then, the line went quiet. I turned back toward room 218. The door was slightly open now. Just a few inches. I know it was closed before. I'm sure of it. The flickering light stopped. Now it was just on. Steady. I stood there, trying to decide what to do. And then something moved inside. Not clearly, just a shape. Standing up, slowly, from the bed. My chest tightened, because the room was supposed to be empty, and whatever that was not supposed to be there. Then it turned, facing the door, facing me. And even from that distance, I could feel it watching. The door creaked open a little more, and a voice came from inside. Soft. Familiar. You answered. I stepped back, and that's when I noticed something that made everything worse. The patient board next to the desk had updated. Room 218 occupied. No name. Just one word. Occupied. I didn't stay. I grabbed my things and walked out. Didn't look back. Didn't stop. The next morning I called the hospital. Told them I wouldn't be coming back. They didn't argue. They just said one thing. Good. I asked what that meant. There was a pause. Then the woman on the phone said, "You're not the first one who got a call from that room." I work at a mid-sized warehouse on the outskirts of the city. Nothing fancy, just storage, shipping, and late-night inventory checks. The night shift is always understaffed, so when my coworker Arjun asked if I could cover his shift, I didn't think twice. He sounded off, though. Before hanging up, he said something that didn't make sense at the time. If you hear something moving in aisle 7, don't go looking for it. I laughed it off. I shouldn't have. His shift started at 10 p.m. When I arrived, the place was quieter than usual. No forklifts running, no background noise, just the hum of the overhead lights. There was a sticky note waiting for me in the security office. It wasn't from management. It was from Arjun. Do not check aisle 7 after 3 a.m. That same uneasy feeling came back. I checked the schedule board. Arjun's name wasn't listed for the entire week. I assumed he just took time off. The first few hours went by normally. I did routine checks, logged inventory, walked the aisles. Everything was fine. Until 3:12 a.m. I was in the office when I heard it. A loud metallic clatter, somewhere deep in the warehouse. I checked the monitor. Camera 12, aisle 7. The feed was glitching, flickering between frames like it couldn't stabilize. Then it froze completely. I stared at the screen, debating what to do. Then I remembered his note. Do not check aisle 7 after 3 a.m. I should have listened. Instead, I grabbed my flashlight and went. Aisle 7 was at the far end of the warehouse where old inventory was kept. Mostly unused crates and damaged pallets. As I got closer, the temperature felt colder. Not just a little chilly. Unnaturally cold. I turned into the aisle and froze. One of the tall metal shelves had been knocked over. Boxes were scattered everywhere. But that wasn't the worst part. There were footprints, bare footprints, on the dusty concrete, leading deeper into the aisle. I felt my chest tighten. Hello? I called out. No response. I followed the footprints slowly. They stopped near the back wall. That's when I noticed something strange. There was a gap between two large storage racks, a narrow space that wasn't visible on camera. I shined my flashlight inside. At first I thought it was empty. Then something moved. Not fast, not aggressive. Just a slight shift, like someone adjusting their posture. I stepped back immediately. Is someone there? I said. Silence. Then from inside the gap, a voice. Weak, dry. You weren't supposed to come. My heart started pounding. Leo, I said without thinking. There was a long pause. Then, I told you not to. The voice sounded like him, but wrong, like it hadn't been used in a long time. I backed away slowly, and that's when I noticed something that made my stomach drop. The footprints on the floor. They weren't just going in, they were going in circles. Over and over, like whatever made them had been pacing for hours, maybe longer. Then the flashlight flickered. Just once. But in that brief moment of darkness, I heard movement. Fast. Right in front of me. I turned the light back on. The gap was empty. The footprints had changed. Now they were leading out. Toward me. I didn't wait. I ran. I don't even remember getting back to the office. I just slammed the door shut and locked it. I checked the monitors. Camera 12 was working again. Aisle 7 looked normal. No fallen shelves. No footprints. Nothing. Then I saw it. At the very edge of the frame, standing at the entrance of the aisle, a figure, still, watching the camera. Watching me. My headset crackled. I wasn't even on a call. Then a voice came through. Clear this time. Right next to my ear. You stayed too long. I spun around. No one there. When I looked back at the monitor, the figure was gone. I quit the next morning. A few days later, I asked a supervisor about Arjun. He looked confused. Then he said something that didn't sit right with me. Arjun hasn't worked here in months. I told him I spoke to him. Covered his shift. Left me a note. The supervisor shook his head. Then he pulled up an incident report. Dated 3 months ago. Night shift. Aisle 7. Employee missing. Last seen on camera 12. Standing still. Facing the shelf. For over 2 hours. Before the feed cut out. They never found him. But they did find something else. Bare footprints. Going in circles. Deep in the back of the aisle.